Minor Tractate, Tractate Kutim. Tractate Kutim, Samaritans, is one of 7 small tractates that addresses topics for which there is no specific tractate in the Mishnah or Talmud. These tractates are written in the terse style of the Mishnah and are likely from the time period of the Mishnah or early Talmud, but their dating and places of composition are subject to debate. Kutim addresses permitted and prohibited interactions with the Samaritan sect, who were considered Jewish in some contexts and not in others. Minor Tractate, Tractate Kutim, Chapter 1. The Samaritans in some of their ways resemble the Gentiles, and in some resemble Israel. But in the majority, they resemble Israel. We do not accept from them for offering in the temple sacrificial birds brought by males with a flux, or sacrificial birds brought by females with a flux, or sacrificial birds brought by women after childbirth, or sin offerings or trespass offerings, but we receive from them vows and free will offerings. We do not transfer to them anything attached to the soil, or sell to them sheep to shear, or crops to reap, or trees attached to the soil, but we sell them animals to slaughter. We do not sell them large cattle, even if they are mutilated, or foals, or calves, but we may sell them a mutilated animal which can never recover. We do not sell them weapons of war or anything which can cause injury to the public. We do not give to them Israelite women in marriage or take wives from them, but we lend to them and borrow from them on interest. We give them gleanings, forgotten sheaves, and the corner of the field. They too observe gleanings, forgotten sheaves, and the corner of the field. And their word can be taken in regard to gleanings, forgotten sheaves, and the corner of the field in their season, and in regard to the tithe of the poor in its year. Their produce is reckoned as tebel, like in the produce of Gentiles, and they make the Arab ineffective, like Gentiles. An Israelite woman should not act as a midwife to a Samaritan woman or suckle her child, but a Samaritan woman can act as a midwife to an Israelite woman and suckle her child on her premises. An Israelite may circumcise a Samaritan, and a Samaritan can circumcise an Israelite. Our Yehuda said, a Samaritan may not circumcise an Israelite because he only circumcises him in the name of Mount Gerizim. We may stall an animal in the inn of a Samaritan, and an Israelite may hire a Samaritan to follow his beast. He may also entrust his cattle to a Samaritan shepherd, and he may entrust his son to a Samaritan to teach him a trade. We may associate with them and converse with them in any place which is not so with Gentiles. He performs chalitza for his sister-in-law and gives a get to his wife, and a Samaritan may be relied on to bring a get from foreign countries to Israel. These are the things which we do not sell them: animals which died of themselves or have been improperly slaughtered, animals forbidden to an Israelite as food, reptiles, a shoe made from the skin of an animal which died of itself, oil into which a mouse has fallen, or the flesh of a couscous, or of an embryo. Although Israelites eat a couscous and an embryo, we do not sell them to the Samaritans, because such a sale would be under false pretenses. And just as we do not sell these to them, so we do not buy these from them, as it is stated, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. Since thou art holy, thou must not make another people holier than thyself. A Samaritan may be trusted if he says that he has buried a miscarriage or not buried it. And with regard to an animal that has brought forth its firstborn or not brought forth, a Samaritan may be trusted with regard to the plantation of the 4th year and uncircumcised fruit and grave signs, but not with regard to overhanging boughs, protruding stones, land of the peoples, or a Beth Paris, because they are suspected of carelessness in these matters. The general principle is that in regard to matters in which they are suspected of carelessness, they are not trusted. Minor Tractate, Tractate Kutim, Chapter 2. We do not buy meat from a Samaritan butcher, except that of which he is prepared himself to eat, nor do we buy from him baskets of birds, unless he first puts them in his mouth. He must not give them to an Israelite to eat, since the Samaritans have from of old been suspected of giving Israelites carrion to eat. The Samaritan is on the same footing as an Israelite in regard to all damages mentioned in the Torah. Whether an Israelite kills a Samaritan or a Samaritan kills an Israelite, if he did it by inadvertence, he goes into exile, to a city of refuge. If willfully, he is put to death. If the ox of an Israelite gored the ox of a Samaritan, he is exempt from damages. But should the ox of a Samaritan have gored the ox of an Israelite, if the ox is tam, he pays half the damage, and if it is a mu'ad, he pays the whole damage. Our mayor said, if an ox of a Samaritan gores the ox of an Israelite, whether it is tam or mu'ad, the owner pays the whole damage and pays from his best possessions. Their cheeses are permitted. Our Shimon ben Eliezer said, those of private persons are permitted, but those of wholesalers are forbidden. Their cooked and preserved vegetables, into which they usually put wine or vinegar, are forbidden. Israelite priests share with Samaritan priests in the latter's districts because they, as it were, rescue the produce from their hands, but not in Israelite districts, lest Jews appear to confirm their priesthood. If a Samaritan priest offers from what he is eating to an Israelite, should the priest be unclean, it is permissible, but if clean, it is forbidden. We do not buy bread from a Samaritan baker on the outgoing of Passover until after 3 bakings have been made, or from private persons until 3 weeks have passed, or from the villages until after 3 bakings. When does this apply? When they have not prepared their unleavened bread together with Israelites, or they observed Passover 1 day earlier. But if they baked their unleavened bread together with the Israelites, or observed Passover 1 day later, their leaven is permitted. Our Shimon forbids it, because they do not know how to observe the law of unleavened bread like the Israelites. At first they said, the wine of Gedor is forbidden, on account of the wine of Kfar Pagasha. Later they revised this rule and said, wherever Samaritans are suspected because of their mingling with Gentiles, if their wine is in an open vessel, it is forbidden. And if in a closed vessel, it is permitted. Our mayor said, all their wine is permitted except that which is in open vessels for sale in the markets. But the sages said, in an open vessel, it is everywhere forbidden, and in a closed vessel permitted. While a vessel which has been pierced and then sealed is like one which is sealed, their jars when new are permitted, but when old are forbidden. Why are Samaritans forbidden to enter the Jewish community? Because they have become mixed up with the priests of the high places. Our Ishmael said, they were originally genuine proselytes. Why then are they forbidden? Because of the illegitimate females, and because they do not perform the Levirate duty to a married woman. When may they be received into the Jewish community? When they have renounced Mount Gerizim and acknowledged Yerushalayim and the resurrection of the dead. From then onwards, one who robs a Samaritan is like one who robs an Israelite.